Have you been frustrated, stuck, and not progressing at the guitar? Today, I go over the main reasons why guitars stop moving forward and give you some tips to get you back on the right path. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to episode 178 of the Play Guitar Podcast. I'm Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitarist that you always wanted to be. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Check out the description for all of the links from the show. And as always, this episode is brought to you by Play Guitar Academy, where you learn the right skills at the right time in the right order to put guitar frustration in your past. Most of the negative feelings I've had when I was learning guitar deal with lack of progress. I remember those times when I could feel my excitement fade, and that's as I realized that for all of the effort that I was putting in, I was not getting any better at the guitar. It doesn't stop there. Once the disappointment fades, the next feeling, which is confusion, sets in. You think, why is this happening? I'm working hard at the songs and I love them, but nothing I'm doing is working. I've said this several times before on the podcast. Learning to play guitar is not impossible. It's just not obvious. And it's best learned in steps. If you're missing a step, it's usually why you're spinning your wheels. And so what are these steps? These are the fundamentals. Why are there so many guitar players who's missing the fundamentals? And here's a few reasons why. Some never knew that they existed at all, or they never had access to them, or most of the time just working on the basics isn't really appealing. Whatever the reason, you're missing something in your playing, take a step back. Learning what you're missing is the first step to fixing this problem, getting you back on track. Today, I'm going to go over 3 common situations. Guitarists face these things that keep them from getting better. For each one, I'll go over the example, the problem, and the solution, and the first steps to take to get you back to getting better at the guitar. But before we start, we're going to go ahead and check out the chat real quick. Let's see here. Coke's here. Hey, Coke, he said, hit the like button. Awesome. Evan's here. Hey, Evan. Hey, Jim. Good to see you. Dean's here. And Jason. Awesome. Great to see you guys. Thanks for coming. Hey, thanks for coming back. We had some folks at the Academy live stream earlier today. And a few of them are here. And as people are starting to come in, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the main topic here. So the first section of this, the first example, is for someone who's stuck. Here's a common situation that occurs when intermediate players are learning to play lead guitar. I'm going to call each one of these people an example. This is a fictitious name. We'll call this person Sean. Sean knows his scale patterns. He practices them over and over. He started with the minor pentatonic scale and worked his way through the big 4 scales. This is fun for him. He likes learning these, and it makes sense. Going up and down each pattern is very satisfying to him, and it's something that he can do now without having to think too much about it. But the issue is applying his scales. Every time that he puts on a backing track, he gets really frustrated. He'll find the key. He figures out what scale he should use. He starts to play and then stops suddenly. He thinks, my playing just doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound interesting. It doesn't sound like my favorite recordings. It just sounds like scales. And so then Sean commits more practice time, and he's practicing and learning more scale patterns. But he's not getting any real return on his time investment. He's just spinning his wheels and not getting better. Well, let's talk about the problems in this situation. He can't use scales in a creative way. While the practice of running scale patterns is very beneficial, it's not what he's discovered making music. It's a lot like reciting the alphabet. It's good, but it's definitely not words. It's definitely not using full sentences. When he lands on notes and lets them ring, they sometimes can sound, have you ever felt this, that they sound sour, even though they're in the right scale? What we're finding is there's more to creating music than just knowing what notes are supposed to work. He doesn't know how to get help either. This is the frustrating part. With all the resources available on the internet, it's much easier to find new songs and tabs than it is to learn how to improvise in a very musical way. So let's talk about the solutions for this problem. First solution, focus on the why. The players who played those songs, who played your favorite solos, they had to start somewhere. Some point, they had the task of coming up with a solo. Someone gave them some chords, or they came up with some chords, and they needed to come up with something. They started from scratch. What did they know to be able to make great melodies out of the same scale patterns that you're using? Why do some notes from those patterns sound good over some chords and not the others? Another problem, learning your strong and weak notes. It's common sense. If you're playing notes in the scale that don't sound great when certain chords are playing, then you figure out some notes match certain chords better than others. We have to deal with that problem in a second. The other problem is learning phrasing. Another reason some solos sound like scales is because that they never stop. We're conditioned to the voice. We respond to vocal melodies. And when a singer sings a melody, at some point, something has to happen. Singers need to take a breath. Even though guitarists don't need to pause in their playing, you can breathe while you're playing a ton of notes. Well-placed pauses can humanize your melodies. So there's our example. Here's our problems. How about what do we do to fix a situation like this? And I know I've been in situations like this. I've been in all of these situations that we're talking about. So baby steps. Number one, take your favorite solo and pick it apart. Pay attention to what chord is happening under the different note choices. They go together. Pay attention to the notes that are long-lasting. Someone plays a note and lets it ring. Those are usually going to be the strong notes, and figure out what chord and that strong note go together. Second baby step, get familiar with arpeggios or chord tones. Arpeggios are your friend. Even if you don't like that sweep arpeggio sound, that was popular in the 80s, when you practice them one after another, arpeggios are a big part of everything you play. Why not? Why is that? They're the strong notes. At some point, you're going to need to move from playing, well, it's in this key and I've got this scale, playing to the key, to start to think about playing to the chord. And once you can hear what notes are strong over a chord, the arpeggio notes, and you can do that from a chord to a chord basis, good ideas start to happen. And the last baby step is always learn the vocal melody of the song. They're easy. Usually they're only a few notes, and they match perfectly to the chord progressions. You can get tons of ideas from the vocal melody. Pay special attention to where the vocalist takes a breath as well. And then you can model that in your own playing. Okay, how about the next example? That was example one. I can think of many, many different times in my life where I've dealt with that example. But how about this one? This one we're going to call You're Going About It Incorrectly. Here's the example. We're going to call this guy Rick. Rick loves to strum his favorite songs. He's been doing it for many, many years. In fact, Rick, he's built a big list of songs and he can play them at a moment's notice. And he always thinks it's really fun when somebody recognizes one of the songs that he's playing. But Rick is frustrated. He feels that all of his songs sound the same. And his songs don't sound as good as his friends who started around the same time that he did. He knows his chords are correct. Chords are everything to him. And he's memorized all of the chords to all the songs, and he plays them the same way as the original guitarist did. But he can't understand why his playing isn't where he would like it to be. He has no idea how to fix it. So Rick is stuck and confused. Okay, so let's go through what's the problem here in this situation. I'm looking at the chat as we're going. These are familiar. They're familiar to all of us. I've taken the experiences I've had with different students and myself over and over again and put them into these, and it's very interesting. So let's go through the problem. The problem is tighten up. Tighten your guitar playing up, right? Number one, sloppy playing. When you have tunnel vision, when you focus so intently on one thing, in this instance, it's the chords, right? It's easy to have blinders on to all of the other things that matter with music. Incorrect timing, incorrect rhythms, very important. Some would say that rhythm is the most important part of playing music. If you're just hoping that you're playing the correct rhythms, but you're not sure, you don't know where they're supposed to land, you're leaving too much up to chance. It's a guessing game. And if you can't stay on the beat, it's very hard to sound polished. There's another problem that's common with this. How about another problem? Dynamics. Dynamics, what are dynamics? Dynamics deal with how loud or how soft you're playing. Some people don't have control of the dynamics of their instrument, and getting control of your dynamics is the key to professional sound. Soft parts, louder parts, it's emotional. It's an emotional impact. When you're playing just the same volume through the entire song, it's not going to have the impact that it would someone who gets down real low, maybe in the verse, and then builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. So that could be one of the reasons why other people might be sounding better than you right now. You weren't paying attention to that. So let's talk about solutions to all these problems. Number one, in this instance, listen to yourself. If you can hear enough that you're upset, if you can hear good enough that your playing is different than some other players that you would like to sound like, it doesn't take much to go that next step. It doesn't take much to sit down and pinpoint what those differences are. Learning more steps is not going to help you. Learning more songs is not going to help you at this point. And that's I got to get better. I'm going to learn more songs. That's not spending your time wisely. Let's make the most of your time. Spend time on the not so shiny things. This terrible word that I say all the time, fundamentals, right? And in this instance, the fundamentals that you've been missing would be rhythm, would be timing, chord changes, going back and forth between chords, and dynamics. Those four things right there, if you focus on those, you're going to tighten up your playing. How do we do that? Baby steps. Here's the baby steps for this situation. I would video your playing. Take your phone, video, look back, and be critical of your own playing. Write down the things that you do not like about your playing. Another thing you would do after that is you can ask other people who you respect about what they think that you could work on. Maybe they're hearing something that you're not. That happens a lot of times. There's a lot invested when you play music. There's a lot of emotions that are attached to it, and there's a lot of focus. There's certain things that you focus on, and it's easy to miss some things. Where a new set of ears could really help you from that. The third baby step would be to work on playing clear sounding chords. Getting your chords to sound great. And then also eliminating unwanted notes, buzzes, and open strings. Okay? Making sure that the only thing that's playing is what you want it to play, and the things that you don't want to hear are not playing, and you're muting them, you're taking care of them, you're tightening up your instrument. And then the final thing, which is the other word that I say all the time, practice with a metronome. Give it a shot. It can't hurt. Practice with a metronome every day. Get your timing together. Even if you're playing along solo acoustic guitar, when you practice, use the metronome. It will translate over. It will make sure that you, when you play, when the metronome's not there, solid. And that's what people are looking for, a nice solid rhythm. Okay, so that's the second situation. Not getting better at guitar. We've got one more. Here's one more situation. Let's see if this has got to do with me too. We'll see. And this is called You're Impatient. Here's the example. We're going to call this guy Max. Okay? Let's talk about Max. Max's dream is to play lead guitar. It's what he wanted to do for as long as he can remember. And Max has no interest in rhythm guitar or chords at all. Has never had that. So Max practices the tablature of his favorite solos. He practices them every day. And he can play a few of those songs, and that sounds very impressive. Really good stuff. He doesn't know what he's playing. He has no idea what the notes are that he's playing. He has no idea what the scale patterns are that they come from. But he can play them, and they sound pretty good. So Max decided, let's say 6 months ago, that it was time. It was time for him to join a band. He wanted to start playing this lead guitar out for people. So he started to find some players. Max got together with some friends, and they got together to jam, made a little band up there. And he was very surprised at how this jam session went. It didn't go the way he expected. It didn't go how he dreamed it would. It wasn't how he dreamed to be at all. It was a struggle, to say the least. He didn't know most of the songs that they wanted to play. And he didn't know how to match the stuff that he knew to these new songs. It was like being in a foreign country where he didn't speak the language. So we'll say that this didn't go well for him. And there was no second jam scheduled. We'll just say that. So Max is at this point, he's stuck. He doesn't know what to do. Maybe even thinking about quitting, right? Let's talk about the problems. Problems in this situation. The first problem is not realizing that there's steps you need to take to build up to your favorite songs. By only learning that favorite song of yours right away, and by learning it by brute force, without understanding the language behind what you're learning, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. This is just mimicking. You're mimicking how someone else plays. I always say it's like a player piano, right? You turn it on and you just do the thing and it sounds like it. There's no knowledge behind it. You don't know why it works. And this holds you back. Not considering also, another problem is not considering that others may have valid ideas when it comes to music. That's very short-sighted. I've learned a ton, so much from other musicians who don't even play guitar, play other instruments, and musicians who play in styles of music that I don't normally play in. You need to open your mind to other things. Let them in. Talk about music to people who have a different experience from you. It will round out you're playing. The last problem is understanding that chords and understanding that scales, even if you have a problem with chords, you have to understand that chords and scales depend on each other. Chords come from scales, and scales, when you play them over chords, can feature the tones and feature the intervals in the chords underneath them. They need each other. Okay? So you can't get very far on either one if you don't know the other. Let's talk about some solutions to this problem. This is interesting. Well, what's a good solution? Asking other musicians questions and being open to what they have to say. If you don't have anyone to talk to about this, that's you take a lesson or two. Get someone to point you in the right direction. It's important. There's more information out there. Now, number two would be to take it on yourself to research a little bit about basic chord scale theory, how they relate to each other, which one came first, right? How when changing one has something to do with the other. It's not hard. It's not difficult at all. Some people try to make it out to be difficult. It's not. It all makes sense. And it's never a bad idea to understand why something works. You're only going to benefit from it. It's not going to take any mojo away. You're going to benefit from it. So what are the baby steps for this? How can we start where, let's see, what was this? Max. Is this Max? I think it's Max, right? Is that who we're... Yeah, Max. Okay. How can we tell Max, okay, do this first? The first thing that you can do in this situation is to challenge yourself to learn a whole song from beginning to end. A lot of the people in this situation know lots of parts of songs. They know the lead part over here, maybe a riff from over here, from this song and that song. Challenge yourself to learn a whole song from beginning to end. And write down what you find. What is something interesting that you didn't think? I'm sure you'll come up with something interesting when you have to learn a song from beginning to end. It's a new experience. Another baby step that you could do is find someone to jam with, preferably another lead guitar player, okay? And get together and jam. Just two guitars sitting there. One person will play lead while the other person is playing rhythm guitar. The other person keeps the chords going, right? This is so beneficial, okay? Because you're throwing roles back and forth. Your roles change depending on who's playing the lead and who's playing the rhythm. You get to have the responsibility of holding the song down while someone else plays the melody. And you get ideas, and you get to see how important what you play is to soloing. When you're the only one there, the person who's playing lead is listening to you. And if you change a rhythm up or play something high, it's going to affect the way that the lead guitar plays. Then when you switch, the same thing can happen, or you could try to do the same thing that you heard the other person do. It starts to build from there. And the last baby step in this situation is learning the big four scales: major scale, minor scale, major pentatonic, minor pentatonic scale, and learn them in all patterns and practice them over diatonic chord progressions. That means chords that come from the scale. You hear about that, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, the 1 chord, diatonic chord progressions. Practice playing those scale patterns over those chords every day. Okay? All right. So there it is. There's our 3 situations that I've seen over and over again not getting better at guitar. Have you seen yourself in any of the situations? Have you not? Let me know in the comments. I'm very interested to find out. I see myself in all of these bits and pieces. Maybe not as drastic as I made them out to be, but I'm in there. And, I think a few of us are also in there too. Okay, so if you are struggling with and trying to get some practice going on, make sure that you head over to playguitarpodcast.com and look at my free guides section. And over there we have the practice space checklist. This checklist will help you get everything you need and get your practice space together so you can bust down all of these problems that you're having and get back to moving forward at the guitar and not getting better at the guitar. All right. It was great hanging out with you today. I'm going to call it. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the notification bell so you can get all of my content as soon as it comes out. Are you ready to fill in the cracks and use my roadmap to get your playing moving forward again? If so, I'm ready to help. Head on over to playguitaracademy.com. Thanks again, and I will see you on the next episode. End of audio podcast. Okay, we're going to head over to the chat here in the live podcast here. I've missed a whole bunch. I'm going to head back to where I think I left off here. This has been a great day of live streaming. This is a lot of fun. There's Siegfried's here. Hey, Siegfried, how you doing? David's here. David said, sounded like Lee was talking about me. And then Evan says, I thought it was me too. Not long ago, at least. Yes. Yeah, we're all in there a little bit, I think. I tried to pick the three big ones, I try to do that. There's other ways people get stuck too, but I think those are the three big ones that we have. Evan says, arpeggios are a great easy to move around a scale pattern. You can create some real interest that way. And then we've moved on to the next one, and Evan says, wait, maybe now he's talking about me. Oh, goodness. Matthew's here. Hey, Matthew, how are you doing today? Great to see. Oh, first live stream as the official Academy member. That's wonderful, Matthew. We have this is the podcast, live podcast, and then Monday through Friday, or sometime between 2 and 3. It's usually around like 2:20, 2:30. We have all of the Academy ones, and if you have any problems or anything you need help with, that's a really good time to hop on there, and I can help as much as I could live. So let's see here. David says, when I first started, I did one finger riffs and I was a rock god. Right? Now that I know a lot more, I'm a rock noob. No, you're not. You're headed in the right direction, man. Yeah. I remember those, the one finger, the smoke on the water and all that stuff. Isn't that, if you think about the biggest adrenaline rushes you have as you're learning guitar, the one finger riffs, like Smoke on the Water and all those things, they are up there. Once you play something that sounds like something else, there's nothing better than that, right? Let's see here. Evan says, no, you weren't a rock god. You just had the beard. Now you're working towards rock godhood. Good stuff. Let's see here. Evan says that rhythm roll is a big one too. Don't knock it. It's critical in live performances. It sure is. It's critical to your lead playing too. Everything, when I play, if I'm, say, we've all met Scooter, right? Scooter plays solo acoustic guitar, although it's big, really, he's got a very full sound. It's not just, it doesn't sound just like strum. But if I go and he calls me up and says, hey, come on out and play tonight. I don't know the songs. I don't know the keys of the songs. I ask him, what key are we in? Bam, right? And then we start off. What he's playing in rhythm completely dictates what I'm going to play lead. I'm listening. I'm watching him. I may not be familiar with the song, but I can see what he's playing and react to it right away. And we come up with some really interesting things. Let's see. Evan says, at some point, I've been some of all of these players. Yeah, they sure are. That's right. And Dwayne's here. Hey, Dwayne, how you doing, man? It's good to see you. Okay, this just in from Evan. I try to pay attention at the jams, and I know I've got to hold it down when the other rhythm player plays lead. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's if you think about it, if you're in like a cover band or something like that, and you're playing lead guitar, and say you're the only guitar player, how much of those songs are you playing? Are you playing lead? Not a whole lot. Those lead parts are, they're very small compared to the whole rest of the song. Most of the time, you're playing chords. Now, if you have another guitar player who's just playing chords, then, especially in blues, you can do fills in between vocal lines and those things, playing in the cracks a little bit, which is fun, but it's an art in itself to be able to do that and not get in the way of the song, to feature the vocal and support it instead of taking away from it as well. So that is sometimes you could be a guitar player who just plays lead all night. But that's something that needs to be worked on over time. Okay. Well, here we are about the 31-minute mark. Any questions or anything you want to talk about before we call it here? Go ahead and start sending those in right now. It's been a great day. Had fun. I enjoyed the live stream earlier, and we're all getting to know each other a little bit more over there too. So that's fun. And I had fun getting this together. This was, making these little, hypothetical situations based on real life things. I enjoyed doing that too. So, okay. Well, thanks everybody. I'm gonna call. Let's see here. Evan says those one finger riffs are exciting, but knowing what all is still ahead of me is exciting as well too. Yeah, there's always something too. Evan's discovering a new style of music. There's a lot of other styles of music too that can be just as exciting as well. So adding on to what very, very exciting. All right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and call it. Great to hang out with you today. I'll be back tomorrow for Academy members at a little bit after 2:00 tomorrow afternoon. And let's see here. David says, need a tone show. Now I want a tube amp. It's got to stop. It doesn't stop, but it's good. You can take a breather from it. That's kind of what I've been doing. I haven't bought any new stuff in a little while, but I bought a lot of new stuff to do all this too. So, okay. Evan says, bye everyone. Jim says, thanks, Lee. Thank you everyone for hanging out. What Evan's talking about, he's deciding portability might be more important than tubes these days. Yeah. I've gone back and forth. I had one of those big Line 6 early on, Flex Tone, I think it was, and it didn't cut through. I wasn't able to use it. Maybe the newer ones are better than that. I've heard some modeling that's better too, but I kind of went to tubes because out of necessity. Okay, everybody, I'm going to take off. Thanks, David. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.